Hey everyone, how will we reach zero hunger in the world? This is what we're going to talk about. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live. I'm Mazor, Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today with me, I have Bernhard Kowatsch.
Adi,
Hey,
perfect and great to be with you today.
I'm so happy that you're with me. Bernhard is the head of UN World Food Program Innovation Accelerator, which is like a big honor for me. I've been part of the accelerator, I think like 2 years ago with Google. And I was the lead mentor in a group of mentors coming to work in your accelerator. And it's been like a blessing. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining me.
No, it's a great pleasure. And like also from the work in the audience that you're having, it's always a pleasure for me to talk to entrepreneurs, startup founders, people who are passionate about innovation, to actually see that you can do things to create a new app, maybe in where you are right now, or also tackle social impact causes.
Right. It is important. We're live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. So I'd like to invite you to join and ask and join the discussion and ask questions. So let's start. So could you just tell us about the World Food Program if nobody, like somebody's listening, doesn't know about it?
So if you don't know the World Food Program, that is okay, but generally speaking, like if you see in the media, the United Nations is providing food in emergencies. So it might be, to Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh or in Colombia, in South Sudan, wherever this is on the planet, or in Yemen right now. Like it's essentially the World Food Program that would provide emergency assistance. That can be both in-kind food, specifically when there's not enough food in a given country, or there's a natural disaster or a drought. But it could also be cash transfers by now. So like last year, already over $2 billion of the aid that World Food Program provided was cash or voucher transactions, so like also cash cards. So it's actually not only, so historically would start with physical food. Now it's already cash and vouchers, but we also actually work on the aspect of changing people's lives. So working on social safety nets of people, school meals program, so that children then can go to school, get a nutritious meal, so that increases the likelihood of them attending, but also working with smaller farmers. And the ultimate goal of the organization is to reach a world with zero hunger. So like that's the sustainable development goal number 2 by 2030, which is to reach a world without hunger. And there is a sad notice actually, which is like in the last 5 years, unfortunately, we actually, like the progress that has been made over the last 30 years, last 5 years actually has gone back. Like the number of hungry people has increased again.
Wow.
Because of conflict, because of climate change, but most recently also because of COVID-19. And so, but this is where we need innovation. We actually need to do more to reach the world without hunger. And this is why, startups, entrepreneurship, all of that, we need more of that.
Yeah, for sure. I have to tell you that first, I'm very surprised that we went back. I was sure that we're on the right track, and social good is something that is done more. So it's good that we're talking. And the second thing is like you have the most wonderful job ever, I think, because you're creating a better future for people in a very important cause. And I've been part of the Google Accelerator program for about 7 or 8 years. And I really remember when I came to Munich and had this week, which was what I felt like doing something important and which is like really making a difference, which is important in people's lives. And I think it's a great initiative.
Thank you. No, and it's one of those areas where, like right now on our team, I would say 2/3 of our team that are on our accelerator, they have more of a kind of private sector startup founder experience, or they worked in innovation teams and tech companies. The other third has implemented innovations in developing countries, and like over time, you obviously build up the corresponding experience. So like you have both worlds, and there is the rare circumstance that both of that coexist. But I'll acknowledge that it's rare to find a serial startup founder who has had several exits and also has had significant in-depth developing country experience. But it is possible, and like this is where I think at the intersection where we work, and that it's possible to actually like create startups, support startups, and have a lot of more meaning is something that I'm personally really passionate about, and I hope also some others, maybe people who are watching this right now, they think like,
Sure.
hey, I just sold my startup, maybe I want to do something and want to help people. Like, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So what would be like the main obstacles to reducing hunger right now?
So so on a global level, there is a couple of root causes of hunger. As I was saying, like, one of the drivers of hunger, unfortunately, right now is still conflict. So like, there's definitely something in particular when there's civil war, but also conflicts between different countries. Like, that is one of the drivers. People get displaced, people flee their home country. So we need the global community, governments, to actually step up and like actually try to end those wars, because like that's something that clearly can be avoided. There's also the issue of if you want, like, natural disasters, and that's exacerbated by climate change. So think about hurricanes, typhoons, landslides, earthquakes, all of that, where if you're in a developed country, a lot of times the government will have the capacity to help you when you are in dire need, and they will support you. But in a lot of developing countries, the capacity is unfortunately not yet there. And so that means that all of a sudden, it might have been a country where people have been, living a normal life, and all of a sudden, because of an earthquake, they're falling into like poverty and hunger. And then the last piece is about like what we would call chronic hunger, so that people are just too poor to live a healthy life. So that maybe you're a subsistence farmer and you don't earn enough land, or you don't own enough land, or you don't earn enough money to actually provide for yourself and your family. And this is where there are means and ways how to overcome that. And like, this is where we believe, you can actually help people to lift them out of hunger sustainably, and then they also stay out of hunger.
Yeah, it's something important for people to just to understand that what we have like normal lives is not normal at all when you go like outside and you go into Africa, maybe in some cases, and other places in the world. And when I worked with the startups that you in your accelerator, they all made me think about what we have and what they lack, and what are the opportunities and options that are available for us and they don't have. And it starts with a belief that they could have a better life, that we believe that and they believe that, and then we can really create something which is better. And the UN has the possibility to really go to the field, to the people out there and reach them. In some cases, startups, they have an idea, but they don't really know the people on bottom up, really know them and give them the answer. And the power of UN is important.
No, right now as World Food Program, like, this is the World Food Program, like the large organization, like, we're trying to reach 138 million people in 83 countries. And that number has actually increased from 100 million to 138 because of COVID-19. And like, This is where, like, I mean, everybody who has been or is in lockdown right now will understand this, but like, if there is no government safety net and you have no savings, then unfortunately, people who have, you may have had a regular income, but because, you can no longer go to a market, or there's border closures, therefore the costs of food are going up, and therefore you can't afford the food anymore. All of these topics, like, it's actually contributing, like, towards people falling into hunger right now. That, like, the effects of COVID-19 are severe in a lot of developing countries. That we already forecast that this is something where we need to actually innovate even more right now in order to help people in these very circumstances, and even be quicker, because like, this is one of the common pitfalls where people would say, well, but innovation, that's only relevant in like 3 or 4 years down the line. But it's like, yes, but you can also actually, like, innovation helps you to be quicker in adapting and in solving problems right now, rather than waiting 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think that innovation is such a large word. When you think about corporate innovation, sometimes it looks like years of planning. But when you see it as startups grow really fast sometimes, and they solve things really, really fast just by changing the perspective and how can be like how could we see a problem. So it's a bit different. And what I see from the startups that I met, maybe they're not all of them, but they really know what's going on in their countries. So they come from the countries and they understand the users. It's not like people who never met these people and just trying to imagine what they would have wanted. They really know what's going on, and it's so important, I think.
No, this is where I think our accelerator program, I guess, is different from some startup accelerators that you might have in developed countries. Where we're really looking for startups. Can be for-profit startups, can be NGOs, can also be actually internal staff from the World Food Program, and we're looking for them globally, so they can be coming from any country on this planet. But they need to be working in one of the 83 countries where we as World Food Program operate, because that's where we believe we can have an added value to solving those issues. And it is very interesting that, from developing countries, you'll see people, they will have a super, well-built understanding of the local problems that they're trying to solve. And then, sometimes they may just be lacking the right mentors or the access to the right people that they have never had before. And similarly, from developed countries, you may have somebody who has a great tech solution, but they have no idea what life in a developing country is like.
Right. I saw, like I'm from Israel, and Israel have this very wonderful ecosystem for startups, and it looks like obvious when you're part of this ecosystem, but when you go outside, especially when I came to you, you could see that things that could be easily maintained. I could just talk to an expert who's done something very similar, or in the same domain or the same industry, and I just get information easily. And sometimes they need to struggle and to fail and try things that sometimes a good mentor or a coach could help them with. And
absolutely, and this is where, it's also like there's different mantras of like what is your basic assumption of like what holds us back right now in terms of like why do we need innovation? Right. Is it just that we need to have a great plan and then we execute on the plan? And honestly, like this is everything that everybody who's watching this, who is from the startup world, the innovation ecosystem, inherently understands is like, it's all about the quality and the strength of the team. If it doesn't matter what the innovation actually looks like at the beginning of the program, if you have a strong team, they will make it somehow so that you actually iterate your way towards something that's solving a real issue. Now, you can still be unlucky, or you can be very lucky. Like there's external factors, of course, but
sure.
The biggest predictor from our experience is like it's always the quality of the team. And it doesn't matter as much actually what you put in your pitch deck, although that also like matters.
Yeah, I saw that you won the FastCompany's Best Workplace for Innovators and Innovative Team of the Year 2020, right? So tell us about that.
No,
congratulations first.
Thank you. No, and like we are really grateful, and we feel honored to have made it onto that list. Like if you actually see like the other entities that are on that list is like, Google and like some of the tech companies, and we are just one of 10 organizations that actually made it on both lists globally, which it's truly humbling to say. Obviously, I acknowledge this is where we started 5 years ago with 5 people here in Munich in Germany, with support. Initial support from the German government and Bavaria here, but like by now a lot of more governments, private sector, and these foundations and high net worth individuals now support us, and we're now more than 53 people on the team. Wow. Because we're also now running programs for external clients like the Gates Foundation for primary healthcare and Humanitarian Grand Challenge and others. So this is where I feel humbled by that, because I acknowledge that the prize is like, yes, it's for us, but it's at the same time, if I think about it, our secret superpower that we have as an accelerator is actually our World Food Program staff out there. There's 18,000 people, and they're at the core of any innovation that we're doing right now. So they are the ones who, if we want to pilot something, they are on the ground actually enabling this piloting or testing or scaling. And so it's probably, I would say, is as much probably an award for us as it is for them, as it is actually for everybody who's supporting us, including mentors like you who've been coming for free and actually work with us and actually help those startups.
Yeah. The opportunity to do something that you have your talents and your knowledge and your skills, and to do something good with it is something that always makes me happy to do. So it's my win here. So what are you looking for when you're looking at a startup? You said the team is the first thing. What are the other things that are important for you?
So everybody can apply on our website online. So like it's innovation.wfp.org. And we actually also list the criteria that we have for startups. So like if it's a startup or an NGO, they have to be incorporated in the first place. And ideally, we're looking for at least a prototype or some minimum viable product that they have tested with people like actual users in the first place. So it starts fairly early stage, but we also we've had a Silicon Valley unicorn that wanted to expand in Africa, and we also have been working with them to expand in other countries. So it's not like we're not limited just to the very early stage startup. So it is competitive. And with that, why do I say it's competitive? Because we're looking for, okay, if there's traction, what's the impact potential globally? How innovative is it? How strong is the team? Does it fit our strategy or the priorities that we see as priorities that we want to tackle? Is it promoting gender equality? And then, we actually matchmaking external startups and applications with our field operations. So that's our filter of saying, if our colleagues on the ground tell us, oh, well, this is actually solving a real issue, or we have an issue, can you help us find a startup? That's for us one of the gut checks to say, okay, this is really, we are onto something here that could actually be one of the next transformative things.
Yeah, I think the connection with the field team is, as you said, is so important, and it's unique because most accelerator and most VCs, they don't have that part. They have the knowledge, they have the ecosystem, and they could decide on which are the startups they believe in. But they don't have any way to really check all the end clients, the end customers, the field itself, and you have the possibility to do it, which is it makes your work much more aimed and focused.
No, and it can sometimes it also it has its advantages and disadvantages. We on purpose we designed an accelerator program based on the Y Combinators, the plug and plays, the Google Launchpad type programs. In reality, because we said we want to support innovators, because we believe that they are the superstars and we help them to be even better. Now, that has its drawbacks, which means that if you're a corporate venture builder, if you're an incubator, a lab, then you might be quicker in some of the decision making in the first place. But I think the one advantage that we have, that we make sure that our work that we're doing is grounded in the reality and the problems that we see in developing countries.
Yeah. So what is your aim. So because you have a very high and noble aim, so you have a goal in front of you, and not only how to make money in 9 out of 10 startups and how they succeed. And for you, I guess that the metrics for success are different than most VCs. It's not only ROI, right? So
yeah, that's true, and it's actually a hard one. So if anybody of the people who is watching has great ideas, I'm always looking for thought exchanges on that, because it's inherently hard for in the private sector. It's very easy to measure success as an accelerator, as an investor, as a VC, which you're looking in terms of do you generate money? Is the valuation of the startups or your portfolio increasing? Yes or no? Now, for us, ultimately, that's an indicator of success. Is there funding coming in? Is the value of a startup increasing? So that's great. What we ultimately care about is, and I usually refer to this as a social impact unicorn, where I'm saying, well, instead of $1 billion valuation, why don't we try that, a startup or an NGO that we sustainably lift 10,000, 100,000 people out of hunger, or we lift 1 million people out of hunger, and that's our North Star. And if right now there's 690 million hungry people worldwide, so if we want to make progress, and if we are serious about reaching the goal of zero hunger, we need to find those these startups, those innovations that can, lift 10 million people out of hunger. And if we don't, we'll still make progress, but we will fail massively. And so what we need to do is and this is finding those great innovations, finding those startups and scaling them, which is inherently hard. I think we'll have to keep trying.
Yeah, I think that the fact that you're not looking only about the money that they could do, it's like the impact that they have. It's something that you need to know how to measure, because if they're making some of the lives easier and they're still in hunger by the dimension and measurement, is it considered that they've done good or not? Or what is the consideration? What is the exact number of what is really being hungry or not? If they're just above it, is it enough? And so forth. What I like about the point of view is innovation bottom up. It doesn't come from the government or from someone on above or the diplomacy efforts. It comes from the people who want to change their lives and their people around them.
It's actually something that we learned actually also so we started with our core accelerator program that's a lot bottom up, to be honest. And then about 2 years ago, we also started a scale up enablement program that's then looking essentially on the most successful startups and innovation that have run through our program. How can we make them even better so that they are going to scale? And so we've been doing a study actually at the time with the Boston Consulting Group about how do other people in private sector, in the public sector do this? What can we learn from that approach? Realizing that, well, it is inherently hard to scale innovations across countries, across cultures, but it has been done and it can be done. And so we need to keep trying. And we have some examples that are really successful. So we'll have to keep on pushing.
Yeah. Could you give me a few use cases and examples of startups that you started with?
So, one innovation that we're really excited about is called Building Blocks. It's actually using blockchain technology for wallets for refugees. It started off actually. So Human Haddad, one of WFP's finance officers, he came to our bootcamp program with that idea of saying, why don't we use blockchain to make cash-based transactions more secure, more efficient, but also better to collaborate with other UN agencies, other partners. And so he came to our 1 week training program, the bootcamp. Then in a 6-month sprint, he first tested with the team. So we brought him together with one of our team members and an external startup that built the technology, and then tested with first 100 people in Pakistan, in parallel. And then the next one was already in Jordan with 10,000 people in a refugee camp that has been expanded to another 100,000 people. And just in the last 5 months during COVID, Human was in Bangladesh, and the team has expanded to reach 500,000 people in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh that are also now using building blocks. And it's actually something that it even maintains social distancing guidelines. So they have a smart card with a QR code, and so they can actually stand at the distance and pay with a QR code on blockchain and authenticate their transactions with it.
Oh, nice.
And this is where I guess it's an unusual use case, first of all, of blockchain technology, but then also it's in production. It's for social good in some of the harshest environments, in lower connectivity settings that you would think about. And so that's one part. Give you another one that we're excited. There's a couple of us using hydroponics, growing plants without soil. That's kind of a lower tech solutions. But then there's also other areas most recently, and some of the people watching this might be excited about this. The Somalia World Food Program team, they built something that they call eShop. It's essentially a delivery hero app and some feature phone application where vulnerable people can order from their homes safely, even during COVID lockdown. And there's essentially, we've been building up an ecosystem Delivery Hero for food delivery. And last month, they already had $1.4 million in sales after 5 months of starting this. So wow. Clearly, which shows you you can scale, you can actually get this these innovations up and running. It's just Delivery Hero in Somalia.
Yeah. Like you could take ideas that were implemented in a certain scene in a certain country and then to take it somewhere else, and it gets a different meaning and different importance and impact. And there is so much knowledge out there and so many talented entrepreneurs out there that could just take part and share their knowledge and experience, which is, I believe it's inspiring. So, what would you consider is the most important skill that an entrepreneur needs to know?
Um, that's a very interesting and relevant question. Like um, and it's also like, can you actually learn that? Is another one. Like, well, I would say so. And I would say there is a skill as an entrepreneur that you need to be constantly, like, you need to be super humanly motivated to solve a problem that you're really passionate about. Um, you need to be able to communicate your idea and inspire others about what you're doing. And you need to be able to bring some sort of like some critical skill and experience that you need for building whatever you're working on, I would say.
Yeah.
So like so sometimes I have people who say like, well, I don't know how to develop an app. Well, that's not a limiting factor if you know something about the idea or you're super passionate about it.
Right.
If you're not passionate about it and you have no experience, then maybe it's
Yeah.
not exactly what you should be working on.
I agree. Like in Israel, everything related to math and science is like very lots of pressure to be like very successful in math. And I always tell my kids that being an entrepreneur is not related to coding, although most people think about coders as entrepreneurs, but you need to be like passionate and motivated and to do it through your like ups and downs, which is really hard to do to create innovation and to be an entrepreneur with a startup, that is always hard. So you need to really believe, and it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that it could be done, right? Especially when you're saying like zero hunger, and then you're saying it's almost 700 million people. So it's like, wow, how can we reach that? But once you know exactly what is this thing that you could build, it's like it's half of the way.
No, this is why am I saying you need to be able to communicate your vision and like get other people on board? It's like maybe in the earliest stages of startup development, that's not yet relevant. But as soon as you need to convince investors, you need to convince your co-founder, you need to convince your team to actually follow the inspiration that you have. If you can't communicate, like even if it's the best idea ever, if you can't actually get this message across, it is going to be problematic. And but it's it doesn't mean that everybody needs to have all skill sets. And it's very often that what we see in startup teams that we're looking for, how is the startup team looking like, not just like every single individual.
Sure. So they need only, it could be only one people who is very good with storytelling, and the other one could be very good at technical stuff, and the other one could be like, but they all need to be involved and really passionate about doing that. Like that's I think something that everybody should share in the team, because if not, one of them will be less, and then it could take them all down, like one
Absolutely.
down.
No, and like it's especially everybody who started a startup will tell you exactly the emotional roller coaster of excitement that happens with like all the disappointed when like something negative happens. Like, and yes, you can go around it by at least have at least one co-founder, not too many then again. But the other question is like, if you're really passionate about a topic that you're working on, that really helps. And that's why I encourage people like that come to me and say, I'm looking to do something more meaningful. Like, I'm oftentimes telling people like, well, what do you really care about? And now in my case, it's really I care about hungry people, and like this is I think everybody should have the right to live a meaningful life and have enough to eat. Um, and but for other people it might be something different. Maybe it's arts, maybe it's animal rights, maybe it's you want to combat racism. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's all of the above. But it's something that you have to think about, like what is really driving you, and like, will help you get through all these roadblocks and like push through everything that you will come across ultimately.
Yeah, I think that what is really like most people who are out there, which are not really creating a startup, but there are so many like experts with product and design and marketing and sales. So many people are talented, and maybe they have their own position and they're working full time with a big corporate, but still they could take their skills and just volunteer and take some of their time to do something good. And it's much more valuable for a team to get a marketing expert for a few hours than just donate money. And they feel valuable that way.
Yes, and that way it's also, I know this sometimes feels weird when like if you have a skill and like you say, well, I'd much rather go like build something or do something physically, is like, unless you're really talented in doing that, I would advocate for, if you have a core skill that you're really good at, maybe use that to do something good. But more often than not, like also it could be, maybe there's a business opportunity. Maybe people are working in companies that say, you're working on fortification, or you're purchasing products in developing countries. Think about what can you do with quality standards, with environmental standards, like with the way how you purchase from whom. Like, so there's lots of things that actually can be done, including like, okay, like we're not opposed to people donating money either. So like that's,
Sure.
but it depends. Like obviously that's, I would say like one of the examples where we've benefited a lot also, for instance, we have had a couple of colleagues from Google supporting us as artificial intelligence engineers on some of our projects pro bono. And most definitely, this is a rare skill that it's a lot more valuable to have them work on artificial intelligence rather than them donating money.
Right. And it's more than that, because these people that there's sometimes they don't know what they don't know. Right. So even if they get money, they don't exactly know who is the expert and who to talk to. And there you just give them what they need. They need someone just to do a part of their product, a part of what their like their user journey, a part of like this could give them much more, because when we think about what people could give, they could give, of course, donations are very like appreciated, but they could give something which is much more than that. And it's like, I believe that could be done. And this inspiring feeling that other people from the outside believe that this could be done is so important for an entrepreneur, a change maker, because he's alone with, or it's a small team, and they don't have the energy from the outside, which is so crucial.
No, like, and I really think there's actually a lot of people who are looking to do something more meaningful and to contribute, but they don't know how.
Right.
But that's a usual challenge where, like, once people find out what they're really passionate about, finding the organizations that are in that respective field and whatever the cause is that they care about. And like sometimes, like, there's so many things you could possibly do. It's like that's like it's not that one is better, one cause is better than the others, and actually a lot of times they're going hand in hand. Like if you're working on, like, if you care about girls empowerment or education for girls, that will also contribute towards like a world without hunger. So like this is where you also have to recognize these types of like interlinkages between things that you're working on.
Right. As long as you really want to contribute, that's the only thing. I think that so many people are wasting their time, like hours in front of Netflix. They could take like one series, just take their time and do something else. So I encourage you all listeners to do that. I think it gives you much more than that. So what would be like the number one tip you will give your entrepreneurs?
Well, I guess there's two things. One is the number one tip, and that will make them successful is build a product that your users or customers love, and which is inherently, that means you need to understand your user, you need to understand the people that you're solving the problem for and with, and they actually really have a deep understanding of the problem. If you do that, you will be a lot more successful no matter what. Like everything else, because if you are developing something that is not grounded in somebody's problem, you will have an issue at a certain point.
Sure.
Now that's that. The other thing, and this is particularly true, I would say, in the social impact space and also with nonprofits, is work on marketing, work on perfecting your pitch, communication, and marketing skills. This is where, like, we see that a lot of the teams, you might have the best idea or the best product ever, but you can't communicate your idea in a 3-minute pitch. So typically what we do in our innovation bootcamp, we have a pitch event and everybody gets, like, standard Silicon Valley style 3-minute pitch. And yes, it's hard, I acknowledge that, but like, if you can't tell your story in 3 minutes, if you get to like somebody who's really important and you have the chance to pitch your idea, they might not give you half an hour to explain what you're doing.
Right. I think it's connected to culture too, because many of your entrepreneurs are not from, let's say, from the US, for example. Like, they have their debate clubs from very, very small age, and they're so used to talking in front of people and to be prominent. And if you're not used to that, so you have another gap other than pitching skills that you need to fill in this very short time. But they do believe in what they're doing, and they have such an important goal. So at least they have that in front of them. So
no, and it's as you say, it's not just the skills. It's sometimes also that I think they have they might not be used to actually do this. They might perceive this as too aggressive. They say, well, they might not want to be saying, well, I don't want to aggressively pitch my idea because, like, people, this is a partnership. We want to actually do this together. And it's like, this is true. And you need to be working with people. However, you still need to be able to communicate your idea. And like so sometimes it's actually humility that's good, and it's a good quality to have also as a founder. Listening to people is a good quality to have. But you still need to be able to communicate your idea. And that's really something where, like, I would say, especially in the social impact sector, it is something that people need to practice a lot more, where, serial startup founders, everybody knows how to pitch your idea.
Yeah. Oh, they learn on the way. It's not like they come with it. They learn on the way. So we're almost done. So if people would like to learn more and hear more, how could they contact the World Food Program or you?
So the first step is, go to our website. It's innovation.wfp.org, or go to our LinkedIn page, WFP Innovation Accelerator, also on Twitter, WFP Innovation. So that's very useful. You can learn more about the projects. If you are a startup founder, or if you want to support us, contact us. That's great. And like, if there's also more information on WFP.org on the overall World Food Program organization, and like, I have to say, like, a small sneak advertising here. So like previously, so I co-founded an app called Share the Meal, where for 80 cents you can feed a child for a day, and it's essentially a crowdfunding app, right? And it's something that it's not something that, if you maybe for a start, you can actually check it out. It's actually very simple, where for instance, you can say you want to support refugees in Uganda, and you can just tap the button and tap another time, and then I just donated.
Wow.
So, and for 80 cents you can feed a child for a day. And what's actually really cool about that is that there's almost 84 million shared meals already. So there's $42 million that have been coming together. So your 80 cents will contribute to something that's a lot more meaningful and a bigger contribution that can go towards ending hunger.
So it's called Share the Meal, and it's an application.
Yes.
Okay. So we learned something which is important in that aspect too. So I want to thank you for your time, Bernhard, and it's been a pleasure, and it was like one of my most important episodes for sure. I feel like I'm so happy that you came and shared your ideas.
Thank you for having me, Adi.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And to all of you changemaker out there, thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.